Hi, my name is Ethan Morris. And for 3 years, I've been living a lie I didn't even know existed. My wife Rebecca fell down the stairs at our home in Austin, Texas. The doctor said she'd never walk again. Complete spinal injury at L1. I quit my job as a financial analyst to take care of her full time. I learned how to transfer her from bed to wheelchair. I installed grab bars in every room. I sold my Mustang to buy a handicap-accessible van. Every single day, I woke up at 6 a.m. to help her bathe, dress, and eat breakfast before her physical therapy sessions. But about 4 months ago, I started noticing something that didn't make sense. Small things at first. The wheelchair would be in different positions than where I left it. Not by much, maybe 2 feet to the left, or angled differently. I thought maybe Rebecca was getting stronger, able to shift herself around better. Then I noticed scuff marks on the hardwood floor near her wheelchair, the kind that looked like someone dragged their feet. But Rebecca's feet were supposed to be completely numb. I didn't say anything. I thought I was going crazy, seeing patterns where there were none. Grief does that to you, makes you desperate for signs of improvement. So I pushed it down, told myself to focus on being grateful she was alive. Then one Tuesday afternoon, I came home early from the grocery store. I'd forgotten my wallet. I walked in through the back door, quietly because I didn't want to startle her, and I heard music coming from the living room. Not the usual soft jazz she liked, but upbeat pop music, the kind you'd hear at a gym. I crept toward the sound, my heart pounding for reasons I couldn't explain. What I saw made my blood run cold. Rebecca was standing. Not just standing, but doing lunges across our living room floor, her hands gripping the back of the sofa for balance. Her legs, the ones that were supposed to be paralyzed, were moving with purpose. With strength, I stood frozen in the doorway, watching my wife of 5 years move like someone who'd never been injured at all. She didn't see me. I backed away slowly, my hands shaking, and got back in my car. I sat there for 20 minutes, staring at my steering wheel, trying to make sense of what I'd just witnessed. Maybe it was a miracle. Maybe the doctors were wrong. Maybe she'd been recovering all this time and wanted to surprise me. But something felt wrong. The way she'd been moving, it wasn't the careful, tentative steps of someone relearning to walk. It was confident. Practiced. Like she'd been doing it for a while. I drove around the block a few times, then came back home loudly, calling out as I opened the front door. Rebecca was in her wheelchair in the exact spot I'd left her, reading a book, looking up at me with that same gentle smile she'd had since the accident. I didn't confront her. Not yet. Because if she was lying to me, if she could walk this whole time, then I needed to know why. And I needed proof. The next day, I went to Best Buy and bought 3 small cameras with motion sensors. I told Rebecca I was installing a security system because there'd been break-ins in the neighborhood. She didn't question it. Why would she? I was her devoted husband, her caretaker. The man who'd sacrificed everything for her. I placed 1 camera in the living room, hidden inside a decorative plant. Another in the hallway near our bedroom. The third in the kitchen, mounted behind a picture frame. Then I synced them all to my phone and waited. That night, I pretended to have a work emergency. My old boss had been begging me to do some freelance consulting work, so I told Rebecca I had to drive to Dallas for an overnight meeting. She kissed me goodbye, told me to drive safe, and I left. I didn't go to Dallas. I checked into a Holiday Inn 15 minutes away and opened the camera app on my phone. For the first 2 hours, nothing happened. Rebecca sat in her wheelchair, watched TV, ate the dinner I'd prepared for her. Around 9 p.m., she wheeled herself to the bedroom. I watched her transfer from wheelchair to bed using the technique I'd taught her. She turned off the lights. I was about to close the app, feeling foolish, when the bedroom camera picked up movement again. At 10:47 p.m., Rebecca got out of bed. Not carefully, not painfully. She stood up like any healthy person would and walked to the closet. She changed out of her pajamas and into workout clothes, black leggings and a sports bra. Then she walked, perfectly normally, into the living room. I couldn't breathe. I watched on my phone as my wife, who I'd been carrying to the bathroom every day for 3 years, proceeded to do a full workout routine. Squats, lunges, planks, stretches. She wasn't struggling. She wasn't in pain. She moved like an athlete in training. After 30 minutes, she stopped and sat on the couch, breathing hard, checking her phone. Then she made a call. The camera had audio, but I couldn't hear what she was saying clearly. I could only catch fragments. He's gone until tomorrow. I know, just a little longer. I'm almost ready. Ready for what? Who was she talking to? She ended the call, did some more stretches, then walked back to the bedroom. She changed back into pajamas, got into bed, and within minutes, appeared to be sleeping. I sat in that hotel room until 3 in the morning, replaying the footage over and over, trying to find an explanation that didn't involve betrayal. Maybe she was sleepwalking. Maybe it was some kind of neurological miracle and she didn't want to get my hopes up until she was sure. Maybe I was hallucinating the whole thing. But I wasn't. The footage was real. My wife could walk. And she'd been hiding it from me for God knows how long. I came home the next morning, exhausted, angry, and terrified. Rebecca was in her wheelchair making breakfast, or pretending to. She smiled when she saw me, asked how the meeting went. I lied and said it went great. She had no idea I'd been watching her all night. I needed more information. I needed to know who she'd been talking to. So I did something I'd never done before in our relationship. I went through her phone while she was in the shower. Her text messages were mostly normal. Conversations with her sister, her mom, a few friends from college. But there was one number that appeared frequently, saved under the name Dr. Martinez. The messages were all about appointment times, progress reports, therapy schedules. Nothing suspicious. Except Rebecca hadn't been going to physical therapy in over 2 months. She told me her insurance stopped covering it and we couldn't afford to pay out of pocket. I'd felt so guilty about that, about not being able to provide better care for her. I called the number. A man answered on the second ring. "Rebecca, I told you not to call me during office hours," he said before I could speak. I hung up immediately. My hands were shaking so badly I almost dropped the phone. Dr. Martinez. I pulled up Rebecca's medical records on our shared insurance portal. Her physical therapist's name was Dr. Richard Lopez. There was no Dr. Martinez anywhere in her care team. I spent the next 2 hours researching every Dr. Martinez in the Austin area. There were dozens, but only one specialization made sense given the context. Dr. Gabriel Martinez. Sports medicine and rehabilitation specialist. His clinic was in West Lake Hills, about 30 minutes from our house. His website showed a professional headshot. Tall, late 30s, the kind of guy who probably ran marathons and posted about it on Instagram. His credentials were impressive. University of Texas Medical School, fellowship at Johns Hopkins, published research on innovative rehabilitation techniques. I dug deeper. Social media profiles. LinkedIn. I found his Instagram, mostly professional content, before and after patient photos with faces blurred, motivational quotes about recovery and perseverance. Then I found it. A photo from 4 years ago. A group shot at some medical conference in San Diego. And there, standing next to Dr. Gabriel Martinez, laughing at something off camera, was my wife. The photo was tagged with the conference name and year. 4 years ago. 1 year before her accident. I zoomed in. They were standing close. Too close. His hand was on her lower back. I felt sick. I kept scrolling through his feed, going back years. There were no more photos of Rebecca, but there were check-ins at restaurants in Austin, the same restaurants Rebecca used to talk about wanting to try back when we were dating. Overlapping timelines. I needed to confirm what I already knew in my gut. So I created a fake email account and sent a message to Dr. Martinez's clinic, claiming to be a journalist writing an article about innovative rehabilitation techniques, requesting an interview. He responded within an hour. Professional, courteous, suggesting we meet at his clinic the following Tuesday at 2 p.m. I didn't tell Rebecca. Tuesday morning, I told her I had another freelance consultation. She kissed me goodbye, told me she loved me. I wondered if she meant it. Dr. Martinez's clinic was sleek and modern, all glass walls and minimalist furniture. He greeted me in the lobby, firm handshake, confident smile. We sat in his office, and I pretended to take notes as he talked about his work, his philosophy on rehabilitation, his success stories. I actually believe, he said, leaning back in his chair, that the mind is the biggest barrier to physical recovery. I've seen patients with severe injuries make impossible progress once they break through their mental limitations. The body is capable of so much more than we think. Interesting, I said, keeping my voice steady. Do you have any current cases that demonstrate that? His expression shifted slightly, a flash of something I couldn't quite read. Patient confidentiality prevents me from sharing specific details, but yes, I'm working with someone now who's made remarkable progress. Against all odds. How long have you been working with this patient? About 3 years? 3 years. The exact length of time since Rebecca's accident. That's quite a commitment, I said. Do you typically work with patients for that long? He smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. When I believe in someone's potential, I don't give up easily. This particular patient is very special to me. I wanted to punch him. Instead, I thanked him for his time, shook his hand again, and left. I sat in my car in the parking lot, my whole body trembling with rage and grief. 3 years. She'd been lying to me for 3 years, training with her ex-boyfriend, or lover, or whatever the hell he was, pretending to be paralyzed while I gave up everything to take care of her. But I still didn't understand why. What was the endgame? Why would someone pretend to be paralyzed? I needed legal advice. I called my college roommate, Marcus, who'd become a lawyer specializing in personal injury cases. I didn't tell him everything, just asked hypothetically what would happen if someone faked a disability. Insurance fraud, he said immediately. If they collected disability payments or insurance settlements based on false medical claims, that's a federal crime. We're talking serious prison time. Why do you ask? Just curious about a case I read online. Well, hypothetically, if you knew someone was doing this, you'd want documentation. Medical records, video evidence, witness testimony. The more proof, the better. After I hung up, I pulled up our bank statements. Rebecca had been receiving disability payments from my old employer's insurance policy. $1,200 a month for 3 years. Over $43,000. But that wasn't the biggest financial irregularity. 6 months after her accident, we'd received a settlement from the homeowner's insurance company. They'd determined that the stairs Rebecca fell down had been improperly maintained, a code violation. We got $375,000. We'd used that money to pay off medical bills, modify the house for wheelchair accessibility, and invest the rest in what Rebecca called our future. She'd insisted on managing the investments herself since I was too busy taking care of her. I logged into our investment account. The balance should have been around $250,000. It was $87,000. $163,000 was missing. I went through every transaction. Most of it had been withdrawn in cash over the past 2 years. $5,000 here, $10,000 there. Always under the reporting threshold that would trigger bank alerts. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely hold my phone. I called the bank, pretended to be verifying transactions for tax purposes. The withdrawals had all been made in person, at a branch in West Lake Hills, the same neighborhood as Dr. Martinez's clinic. I drove home in a daze. Rebecca was in the living room, in her wheelchair, watching a cooking show. She looked up when I came in, smiled that same gentle smile. "How was your meeting?" she asked. "Fine," I managed to say. "I'm tired. I think I'm going to take a nap." I went to our bedroom and closed the door. Then I sat on the edge of the bed and tried to figure out what to do next. Confront her? Call the police? Get a divorce lawyer? Every option felt impossible, surreal. I decided to wait. To gather more evidence. To understand the full scope of what was happening before I made any moves. That night, I pretended everything was normal. We ate dinner together, watched a movie, went to bed. Rebecca fell asleep quickly, or at least pretended to. I lay awake, staring at the ceiling, listening to her breathe, wondering who this person next to me really was. The next morning, after Rebecca's sister called to say she was coming to visit for a few hours, I used the cameras to watch what really happened. 30 minutes after I left from my errands, a car pulled up outside. Not her sister's car. A black Tesla. Dr. Gabriel Martinez got out. He had a key to my house. He let himself in. I watched through the camera as Rebecca stood up from her wheelchair, as they embraced, as they kissed in my living room. I watched as they talked, too quietly for the camera to pick up clearly. I watched as he pulled out a folder of papers, as they sat on my couch reviewing documents together. I couldn't make out what the papers said, but I could see Rebecca's signature on several pages. They spent 2 hours together. Then he left, and Rebecca was back in her wheelchair before I returned home. I felt like I was drowning. Not just betrayed by my wife's affair, but completely lost in what was clearly a much larger deception. That evening, I told Rebecca I was going for a run to clear my head. Instead, I drove to Marcus's office. I told him everything. The cameras, the doctor, the missing money, the insurance fraud. He listened without interrupting, his expression growing graver with each detail. "Ethan," he said when I finished, "this is bigger than insurance fraud. If she's been systematically stealing money under false pretenses, if she's been conducting an affair while committing fraud, you need to go to the authorities. And you need a good divorce lawyer. I can recommend someone. I need to understand why first," I said. "There has to be more to this. People don't just fake paralysis for 3 years for no reason." Marcus leaned forward. "Sometimes the reason is just money and selfishness. Don't make this more complicated than it is." But I knew it was more complicated. The way Dr. Martinez and Rebecca had been reviewing those papers, the serious expressions on their faces, it wasn't just about an affair or stolen money, they were planning something. I needed to see those documents. The next day, when Rebecca went out for her wheelchair-accessible van maintenance appointment that I now knew was fake, I searched the house. I went through every drawer, Every closet, every box. I found the folder hidden in the back of Rebecca's closet, behind shoe boxes. Inside were legal documents, financial statements, and emails printed out. My blood ran cold as I read through them. Rebecca and Dr. Martinez weren't just having an affair. They were building a case against me. The documents outlined a plan to have me declared mentally incompetent. There were forged medical evaluations, statements from witnesses I'd never met, claiming I'd exhibited erratic behavior, aggressive outbursts, memory loss. There were emails between Rebecca and a lawyer discussing conservatorship laws in Texas. They wanted to take control of all my assets, including the substantial trust fund I'd inherited from my grandfather, which was currently worth about $2 million. Rebecca had always known about it, but we'd agreed to leave it invested, to only touch it in case of emergencies. The plan was elaborate. Rebecca would continue playing the paralyzed victim. Dr. Martinez would provide expert medical testimony about my declining mental state and inability to care for her properly. They'd petition the court for emergency conservatorship based on my supposed incompetence and Rebecca's dire need for proper care. Once they had control of my finances, Rebecca would stage a miraculous recovery through Dr. Martinez's innovative treatment. Leave me, and take half of everything in the divorce, plus whatever they could embezzle before I figured it out. But there was more. I kept reading and found emails that made my stomach turn. Rebecca had never fallen down those stairs by accident. She'd staged it. Dr. Martinez had helped her create false medical records, bribed a radiologist to show spinal damage that didn't exist, and coached her on how to fake paralysis convincingly. The whole thing had been a con from the beginning. But why me? We'd been married 5 years. We'd been happy. Or so I thought. Why go through all this? I found the answer in an email thread from 4 years ago, before we were even married. Rebecca and Dr. Martinez had been engaged. They'd been planning to get married when Rebecca found out Gabriel had massive gambling debts, over $500,000 owed to some very dangerous people. She'd broken off the engagement, cut him out of her life. Then she'd met me. Sweet, stable, wealthy Ethan with his trust fund and his stable career. She'd seen an opportunity. The plan had always been to marry me, fake an injury to access insurance money and settlement funds quickly, then drain my accounts through conservatorship. Gabriel would pay off his debts. They'd disappear together, probably to another country with no extradition treaty. I sat on the closet floor, surrounded by evidence of my wife's betrayal, and I felt something I'd never felt before. Not sadness. Not anger. Pure, cold determination. They'd underestimated me. They thought I was just a nice guy, too trusting, too devoted to see what was right in front of me. They thought they could destroy my life and get away with it. They were wrong. I took photos of every document, uploaded them to a secure cloud storage, then put everything back exactly as I'd found it. Then I called Marcus again. I need that divorce lawyer, I said. And I need to talk to the FBI. Marcus set up meetings for the next day. I brought all my evidence, the camera footage, the financial records, the forged medical documents, everything. The FBI agent, a woman named Sarah Chen, reviewed everything with a stone-faced expression. Mr. Morris, she said, this is wire fraud, insurance fraud, conspiracy, identity theft, and about 6 other federal crimes. We're going to need you to wear a wire, get them on recording, admitting to the plan. Whatever you need, I said. They set it up for the following week. The plan was simple. I'd confront Rebecca and Gabriel together, wearing a recording device, and get them to confess. But the night before the confrontation, everything fell apart. I came home to find Rebecca crying in her wheelchair, police officers in my living room. Mr. Morris, one of the officers said, we need you to come with us. You're under arrest for elder abuse and fraud. My mind went blank. What? Rebecca looked up at me, tears streaming down her face. I'm so sorry, Ethan. I tried to protect you, but I can't anymore. The stress of caring for me, it's changed you. You've been stealing from our accounts, forging my signature, and I caught you trying to force me to sign legal documents I didn't understand. I stared at her in disbelief. She was spinning the entire con back on me. The officers handcuffed me. I tried to explain, tried to tell them about the evidence, but they weren't listening. Rebecca had filed a police report, had witness statements, had everything she needed to paint me as the criminal. I spent the night in jail. Marcus bailed me out the next morning, his face grim. They moved faster than we expected, he said. Rebecca filed for an emergency protective order and conservatorship petition. She's claiming you've been financially abusing her, that you forced her to sign over access to your accounts, that you threatened her when she tried to report you. But we have evidence, I said. The cameras, the documents. They're claiming the camera footage is edited, that you fabricated the documents to discredit her because she discovered your fraud. It's your word against hers, and she's the victim of a terrible accident while you're the husband facing criminal charges. I felt the walls closing in. They'd planned for this scenario. Of course they had. What do I do? Marcus's expression was steel. We fight back. And we bring in someone who can corroborate your story from the inside. Who? Her sister. I blinked. Emma? She'll never believe me over Rebecca. Maybe not. But Emma's a doctor herself. She understands medical fraud. If we show her the evidence, if she can see the forged medical records and understand what they mean, she might be willing to examine Rebecca herself. It was a long shot, but it was all we had. Marcus arranged a meeting with Emma at his office. She came ready for a fight, defending her sister before we even started. My sister would never. Please, I interrupted, just look at these medical records. I showed her everything. The forged radiologist reports, the impossible progression of symptoms. The medications Rebecca claimed to be taking that would have caused serious side effects she'd never exhibited. Emma studied the documents for a long time, her expression shifting from defensive to confused to horrified. These scans, she said slowly, they're falsified. I've seen hundreds of spinal injury scans. The shadowing here, the alignment, this isn't real. I know, I said quietly. Emma looked up at me, her face pale. You're saying my sister has been faking this entire thing? I'm saying your sister and Dr. Gabriel Martinez have been running a long con to steal everything I have. I showed her the rest. The camera footage, the financial records, the conservatorship plan, everything. Emma watched the video of Rebecca walking, doing lunges, kissing Gabriel in my living room. Her hand covered her mouth. Oh my God, she whispered. Oh my God, Rebecca, what did you do? With Emma's cooperation, we had what we needed. She agreed to confront Rebecca directly, wearing a wire provided by the FBI. The confrontation happened 3 days later. Emma went to the house while I waited with Agent Chen in an unmarked van down the street. Through the wire, we heard Emma enter. Heard Rebecca's surprised greeting. Emma? I didn't know you were coming over. I need to talk to you about something serious, Becca. A pause. Is everything okay? No, nothing is okay. I've seen the medical records, Rebecca. The real ones and the fake ones. Silence. Long, terrible silence. Then Rebecca's voice, cold and hard, nothing like the gentle wife I'd known. What are you talking about? I'm a doctor, remember? I know what real spinal injury scans look like. I know what real paralysis looks like. And I know you've been lying to everyone for 3 years. Emma, I don't. Stop. Just stop. I saw the video of you walking. Ethan showed me everything. The affair with Gabriel, the stolen money, the plan to declare him incompetent. All of it. Another long pause. When Rebecca spoke again, her voice was different. Sharper. The mask completely off. You're supposed to be on my side. You're my sister. I'm on the side of the truth. How could you do this? To Ethan? To our whole family? Do you have any idea what you've put him through? Oh please. Ethan is a trust fund baby who's never worked a real day in his life. He doesn't deserve that money. He inherited it, did nothing to earn it. At least Gabriel and I are willing to work for what we want. Work? You call fraud and lies work? I call it survival, Rebecca snapped. Gabriel was in trouble. Real trouble. People who would have killed him if he didn't pay. I loved him. I still love him. But Ethan had the money we needed, and he was so pathetically easy to fool. So yes, I married him. Yes, I faked the accident. And if you hadn't interfered, it would have worked perfectly. You're insane. I'm practical. And you're going to keep your mouth shut about this, or I'll make sure our family knows exactly what kind of person you really are. Remember that little prescription fraud issue from medical school? The one Dad paid to make disappear? Agent Chen looked at me. We've got enough. Moving in. The next few minutes were chaos. FBI agents storming the house, Rebecca's screams of protest, Emma crying. When the dust settled, Rebecca and Gabriel were both in custody, facing a list of charges that would put them away for decades. The police found evidence at Gabriel's clinic of at least 3 other patients he'd helped fake injuries for insurance money. The whole operation was bigger than just me. In the end, Rebecca got 15 years. Gabriel got 20, plus he owed restitution to his gambling creditors, which basically meant he'd be working prison jobs until he was 80. Emma testified against her sister, providing expert medical testimony that helped prove the fraud. She apologized to me about 1,000 times. I told her she saved my life, which was true. The courts unfroze my accounts, returned the stolen money plus interest, and overturned all the conservatorship petitions. I moved out of Austin. Couldn't stay in that house, Couldn't even stay in that city. Too many memories, too much trauma. I moved to Colorado, bought a small cabin in the mountains. Started working as a remote financial consultant, helping other people protect their assets from fraud. And I started dating again, very slowly, very carefully. I met someone named Kate at a coffee shop in Boulder. She's a teacher, kind and genuine, and the complete opposite of Rebecca. On our third date, I told her the whole story. I expected her to run. Instead, she reached across the table and took my hand. "That must have been terrifying," she said. "But you survived it. You're stronger than you think." Maybe I am. Some days I still wake up angry, replaying moments from those 3 years, wondering how I missed the signs. But most days now, I wake up grateful. Grateful I discovered the truth before it was too late. Grateful for Marcus and Emma, and Agent Chen and everyone who helped me fight back. And I'm grateful that sometimes when someone tries to destroy your life, you get the chance to rebuild something even better.